Dad just got the cattle trailer over to the barn. We got a few animals to move around. Gonna sell one cow and a few calves, and then there's some dry cows to take back and forth. I dried 3 cows off this morning when I was milking. Still haven't taken those to the dry cow barn. Dry cows are all out in the pasture right now. We got a few we want to bring up to the barn, so we got to go get them out of the meadow. $8.78. This is our Prefresh pen. We put cows in here to have their calves. Try to get them in 2 to 3 weeks before their due date. Don't have a lot of cows due the next couple weeks. We'll be adding 6 to the group. They'll be up to 9 now, but there's only 3 in there today. Let's go. Got all these Prefresh cows moved up. One cow we're gonna sell is loaded up, and now we're gonna put the calves in there. These Angus Cross calves are bringing good money right now. They'll get bought by another farmer and raised for beef. Yesterday I was spraying a little bit of soybeans, and we noticed that there's a couple fields that we should do some replanting in. Dealing with some slug damage, also some groundhogs are getting some of it. So we're gonna try to replant. We have 1 bag of seed left over. We thought we might as well plant a couple spots. I had not touched the planter since we finished corn the other week. So I gotta get the tractor hooked up, and we have to switch our meters back over to soybeans, so we gotta take the boxes off. I actually had a touch more seed left in these boxes than I thought. I'll save this corn seed and use it next year. Maybe lose some of its germination percentage by next year, but probably not much. I made it to the first field that we need to do some replanting. It's just towards the tree line back here. Most of the field looks pretty good. One of the issues with growing soybeans is the groundhogs really like to eat them when they first start to grow. They won't eat them once the beans get taller, but right at the beginning they can take out a big section. This bottom part of the field has got some damage. We'll look closer at it. We're dealing with 2 different things. There's some slugs that are eating at both the corn and the soybeans, and then there's some groundhogs that are getting at the soybeans as well. Some of this corn is a little bit beat up. You can see how those leaves are chewed away. That one's worse. We've had issues in the past, and it seems to grow out of it fine, but I don't like to see the leaves beat up too much. There's a really bad one. When there's more moisture, we get more rain and cooler days, the slugs are worse. They kind of get ahead of the corn. Now we got some heat and sunlight. I think the corn will grow out of it pretty fast. We normally don't have as many issues with slugs on the soybeans, but I don't know if it's since we got them in the ground a little bit earlier this year. Now that's poison ivy right there. It's nasty stuff right there. I don't want to touch that. So we no-tilled the soybeans into the triticale after we took that off this spring. And I didn't spray to kill the triticale until just yesterday. I wanted to let it regrow a little bit. If you spray it right away, it won't take care of it. You can look at the slugs we're getting after the beans in this area of the field. And that's not a good thing. They don't look nearly that bad in most of the fields, but there's just sections. This lower area right here, I guess, was a little bit wetter. Figured we could replant some of this. It's pretty healthy to me. So, yeah, we'll just plant some of this lower area, see how it goes. scouting around a little bit more in that top field there. I hadn't looked closely at that whole field, and kind of wondering if we shouldn't be replanting all of that. And I don't know about the rest of these fields. I need to get somebody in here that knows what they're talking about to tell me how well these plants are gonna grow after this damage they have. Just a little disappointed in what I'm seeing. It's the next day now, cleaning out the cattle trailer. We want to move some young animals. Group of heifer calves we want to move out, as well as 6 Angus calves from the neighbor. So we like to clean the trailer out every time we move young calves. They're getting very close to being done with that last silo. Silo's now at 120 feet. They got 3 more rings to pour. So 2 today and 1 more tomorrow, and that's it. Just about to move that form up. Dad was finishing the feeding at the heifer farm. So we got some heifers we need to move to the other farm, bring some pregnant ones back, and then we can move out the younger animals. Let's see if we can watch this form get moved up. We got a long hook that can reach down and unlatch the next set of forms.
You don't want that other one.
Okay, 30.
33.
She's not pregnant, I guess, or confirmed yet. Dropping these off at the rented place. $94 we want. 89, yes. There we go. Back in the heifer barn, we need to move animals down through now. All the big ones ran out to the pasture. Yeah. We're ready to start moving the calves out of the calf barn now. So we got 15 total we want to move, 9 Holsteins, and then there's 6 of these Angus cross calves for the neighbor. We're going to take to his place. Go. Go. So we took the Angus to the neighbor. Now we got our Holsteins loaded up, and we have our 1 Jersey cross calf there. She's looking good. Got that job done again. Talked to some guys that know a little bit more about slugs than I do. Was recommended to replant some of these acres. Got enough seed to replant about 10 acres of soybeans. The plan is to get some slug bait. It's a dry granular product, and we're gonna spread that on some of the worst fields to hopefully take care of these slugs so they don't keep damaging the crops. The corn should grow back fine even though the leaves are pretty damaged. Some of these beans are almost killed off, but they're not gonna keep growing. So the best thing right now is hot sunny weather like we're having. That's gonna help get these plants growing fast and outgrow the slugs. I did about 5 acres at that other farm. Now I'm back at the home place. There's just, for whatever reason, one section in the middle of this big field that was kind of beat up worse than the rest. It's planting really nicely. Seemed like the soil's a bit more mellow than it was a few weeks ago. It's the next day. They are pouring the last ring on this third silo. It's a slow process. It is the next day again. It's Friday morning. We have the skid loader in the shop right now because this morning I went to bed the stalls and this tire was flat. We've had issues with multiple tires on this thing. It's not just because the tires are getting thin. The rims are starting to rust. Yeah, they get bent a little bit, get out of place, and then lose air. We have tubes in all the tires now, I think. Dad is gonna go pick up a set of 4 new rims with tires on them. This morning I'm going to unhook this 7220 and go hook it up to a fertilizer spreader. They got finished pouring concrete yesterday and they just pulled the forms off of the silo now. Got to put the roof on and the ladder guard and pipe and everything. They're dropping the last form right now. You can see it there, it's on the back side of the silo. Kind of nice that we don't have to worry about concrete trucks pulling in here every few hours now. Had a fertilizer spreader delivered this morning. See if we can figure out how to use it. We're gonna be spreading a granular slug bait. See it right there. The blue stuff you see there is the slug bait. You're supposed to spread that on at 10 pounds to the acre. You need a really small spreader to spread that low of a rate. So you have it mixed with some potash fertilizer. That's what the pink stuff is there. We'll spread it 100 pounds to the acre. 90 pounds of that will just be the potash. A little bit of fertilizer will be good for the soybeans. All right, I'll drive out to the field and I'll show you what we're dealing with. This was the worst field we had for slug damage. It actually killed off a bunch of the beans. So I replanted this whole field. I definitely want to spread some bait out to get rid of these slugs so they don't damage the new seeding. I'll show you one of these slugs. They're usually pretty easy to find. Yeah, there's one. Okay. You see that little guy there? So that's one of the slugs right there. They just hide there at the base of the plant, waiting for the sun to go down, and then they'll climb up on the leaves and start chewing away. I don't know if you can see the little antennas there on his head. There he goes. So there's just millions of these little guys out in our fields. And it's okay if there's some of them. It's not usually a problem if the weather's warm enough and the plants get growing real quickly. They'll take off, and even if they're chewing a little bit at the leaves, the plants will grow way too fast for them to damage them too much. We planted the tail end of April and it was pretty warm at that point, but then it got kind of rainy and cooler for a couple weeks and the slugs had a chance to put a hurting on these little plants before they got to growing fast. You can see this corn is pretty shredded. We actually have never spread the slug bait before. We've had issues different years with slugs, especially at this farm. For whatever reason, they're a little worse here. The slug bait costs $20 per acre, plus we mix it with some potash So that's about another $20 an acre. So I was trying to decide if that's worth spending $40 an acre to try to bait these slugs, because now with the sunlight, the corn's gonna be able to outgrow them. The beans would worry me a little bit, the new seeded beans. Kind of depends too, if we get some rain soon and it doesn't get quite as warm, we could have trouble. Baiting them this year should help us next year as well. I got enough to do 80 acres, which is about a third of our ground. I'm gonna do the worst fields. We'll do this whole side of this farm. And then we got some other fields with a good bit of damage. A little over $3,000 to do that. I figure it's probably worth it. I don't know, you could argue either way. With the current prices of bull calves, I find it a little bit easier to justify spending a little bit of money. It's just 3 bull calves worth of money. The other thing is we're getting some benefit from that potash fertilizer. It should help bump the yield a little bit. That'll kind of offset some of the cost too. So we'll spread this bait on the field now, and then tonight when the slugs come out, they'll see it, eat some of it, and then it should take them out pretty quick. My spreader spreads 50 feet, so I'm just gonna count the rows. That's 20 rows. You can't see it back there, but little granular shooting out about 25 feet on each side. So I don't know if the bait kills them right away or if they'll be a little sluggish for a little bit before they would pass on. Ideally for the cornfields, we could have used a nitrogen fertilizer as the carrier instead of the potash. Just decided to keep it simple and run the same thing. That way I can go straight across all these fields, corn and beans. So if the bait makes the slugs sluggish, how am I gonna tell if it's working? I just spread about 30 acres, wanted to make sure we're not using it up too fast. Looks good. Now I'm gonna scout around and see which fields I want to spread for sure. This side of the lane's looking quite a bit better. I don't think I'm gonna put any on this field. See a slight bit of damage on some of the leaves, but it's growing really good. So we're gonna let this go.
I got everything I need. Oh, I need a jack, yeah.
I'm a little over half done with the spreading. I just stopped for lunch, helping Dad with those tires. Got pretty much the cheapest tires we could find. Paid $960 for the set of 4 rims and tires, so it's a pretty good deal. It's like 1 bull calf, so what is that? Alright, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Next week we'll get to see the roof go on this last silo. We need to start feeding out of the first silo that we filled a few weeks ago soon. I don't know if that'll be the next video, but pretty soon we're going to get to that job. Alright, see you guys. Thanks for watching.